Hey, we're back. Okay. It's Thursday, lesson 7.6. Here's your mental math. All right. Press pause on your video. What you're going to be doing is figuring out where the decimal goes in the answer by looking at the problem. Use estimation. And this one right down here, the second to last one's a real stinker. All right. Hit pause and do it right now. There you go. Okay, good. You did it. All right, here we go. First one. You just use estimation. That's about 3 times 6 is 18. It's got to be there. Boom. That's, say, 6 times 10 is about 60. Well, the only way I can get close is to go to 53. Let's go there. Now we're getting a little obnoxious. Let's make that 20. 20 times 15 is just 2 times 15 plus another 0. So that's 2 times 15 is 30. Add another 0 is 300. All right. That was a little harder there. Next, we got 100. Let's call that 100 times, let's make that 7. Since we went down on that one, we'll go up. 100 times 7 is 700. It's got to go there. Now, this is the stinker. I'm sorry. But 990, okay, I'm just going to get that as 1,000. Okay, 1,000 times 0.02. That's like 2, so, okay, here's what I would do. This is, if this was a 1 here, it would be 1/100th, right? So I'm going to figure out what 100th is of this. That sounds hard, but it's not. It's just moving the decimal. 1, 2. So 1/100th of this would be 9.9, blah, blah, blah. And I got 2 of those, so I'm going to double that 999. So I'm going to have something that's more like 18 to 20, something like that. It's there. Okay? If you've been counting up the decimals and putting them in that way, that worked for this one. See, like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That worked. Anytime this math program likes to mess with you, if they put a 5 and a 2 at the end, or a 5 and a 4, or an 8 and a 5, those things all end in a 0. 8 and 5 get you 40, blah, 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 blah. They don't have to stick the 0 down over here because you can leave it off. So if you counted up and did 1, 2, 3, 4, you got it wrong because you put it there. So this is a stinker. I'm sorry, it's a stinker. This one's not as hard. If you thought of that 0.25 is the same as the fraction 1/4. So if I'm taking a 1/4 of 3, 1/4 of 4 would be 1, so it's going to be a little smaller than 1, but not hugely smaller than 1. It's going to be right there, 0.8. Okay, so there's the mental math. Now, I'm going to explain to you, and to do this, you probably should open up your books to page 250. So get 250 and hold it out in front of you. All right, so first I'm going to do is explain a little bit about the shapes so you know these shapes really well. And then you'll be able to do 250 and well, you won't be able to do 250 and 251 until you watch the next video where I explain this hierarchy of quadrilateral hierarchy, okay? So, pay attention, here we go. I want you to understand what a trapezoid is. A trapezoid means, so the first thing is just quadrilateral. All we're talking about today is quadrilateral, which is just a fancy way of saying a 4-sided shape. It's got 4 sides, 4 angles. That's it. All right. So a trapezoid is any 4-sided shape where 2 of the sides are parallel. If you continued those lines on forever and ever, they would never touch each other. That's what parallel means. The other 2, so this pair is parallel and the other pair is not. Well, actually, a trapezoid means at least one pair is parallel. So this would be a trapezoid, right? Because these 2 are parallel. These 2 are not. So it does have at least one pair that's parallel. This would also be a trapezoid, technically, wouldn't it? Okay? These 2 are parallel. These 2 are parallel. What else do we know that shape as? Yes, it's a rectangle. It's also a quadrilateral. So the bigger category is, biggest one is quadrilateral. One of the next splits off from quadrilateral, we'll get to this next video, is trapezoid. So that's what a trapezoid means. Trapezoid. Zoid. Okay, you got trapezoid. Let's move on to a kite. A kite is a totally different thing. A kite means you've got 2 separate pairs of adjacent equal length sides. What does that mean? I don't get it. Adjacent means they're touching. So it's that these two sides that are touching have the same length. It has nothing to do about parallel. Nothing. Kite, nothing to do with parallel. It means these two are the same length. So I'm going to put a little 1 on them there to show that they're the same length. That's how you show that something's the same length. The other two are going to be their own different lengths, but they'll also be the same. So like this. And these two have the same length as each other. So one pair of adjacent sides that are the same length, and a second pair of adjacent. They're adjacent because they're touching, and they're this equal length, but nothing about parallel. And why is that called a kite? Yes, you guessed it, because if you put a little string here and you put a little guy and smiling, and then the wind's blowing, right? That's good. It's good times. That's a kite. Okay. All right, moving on to a parallelogram. All right, parallelogram just means that it's got two pairs of parallel sides. So over here, those guys parallel going on forever, and these guys also have to be parallel. So they could maybe go, and you can kind of do whatever you want. So that's a parallelogram. Parallelogram could also be like leaning over like that, because these two are parallel and these two are parallel. That works too. That's generally what a parallelogram is going to look like. So each pair, so the opposite sides from each other, they're going to be parallel. All right. A rhombus is a special kind of parallelogram. So a rhombus is a special kind where all the sides, it's like a square that's knocked over. We got two pairs of parallel, and everybody's the same length. Right? That's why it's like a square that got hit on the head and said, ow. Okay, that's a rhombus. A rectangle is a parallelogram that has 4 right angles, so it's 90 degrees in every corner. And you show that by putting that little square thing in there. So that's a rectangle. And a square, which you've been talking about since you could like barely talk, is a special kind of rectangle where it's the same deal. It's got the 4 right angles, but everybody's the same size. All the same length. Okay, so those are all the shapes you can work with. Look at the next video to explain the quadrilateral hierarchy.